Hello, this is Craig Mertens, Director of Product Education for Inktober, the parent company of GraphicsFlow, Inksoft, and Printavo. Welcome to the webcast today. We're going to teach a class on implementing e-commerce into your business, and I've had quite a few requests for this subject matter. I think it's honestly pretty confusing, and when I first started getting involved in the ecosystem of Inksoft, I really didn't honestly know a whole lot about e-commerce and how it worked, and I didn't really understand why an industry-specific platform built for apparel decoration would have so many advantages over just an off-the-shelf solution. And, talking to so many of our clients on pretty much a daily basis, I couldn't help but think, it's like, why do people keep flocking to Inksoft that have used all of these other platforms like Shopify and Square and all these other platforms? And it kind of finally dawned on me that it's because it's built for our industry and it actually makes it easier for people to implement stores. And really what e-commerce is all about is implementing stores. So what we're going to talk about first is why e-commerce. And if you've been on any of my webcasts in the last 3 years, one of the things that I talk about quite frequently is the shift in consumer purchasing habits. I think about how many times a week Amazon is dropping things off. My wife just ordered paper clips from Amazon. I was like, it used to be something that we'd buy at Target or Walmart or maybe go to the office, one of the office stores, but she just ordered paper clips. It's just easier for order. I don't know what she needs paper clips for, but it was just easier for her to order paper clips. And consumer habits shifted. We would probably in the past, we would, most likely if we were doing consumer purchases, we'd enjoy going to a local vendor or supplier and, walking the aisles. And, I used to like going to Target to hang out and just, see what's new at Target. It was kind of fun, but I don't really feel the need to do that anymore. I would probably spend more of my time just browsing Amazon to find that perfect product that I'm looking for. And, the shift in consumer habits, I think initially started out of necessity because during the pandemic, really we didn't have much choice. We weren't, going out into public as much, or at least many people weren't. And all of a sudden, shopping online became the primary way we did shopping. And then guess what happened? We kind of liked it and we stuck with it in a lot of cases. So not being able to give your customer an option to purchase from you online is fairly, I think, inconvenient for a lot of people, especially younger buyers. Yeah, they'll just look at you like, you don't have an online capability for me to purchase. I have to talk to somebody. I have to come into your physical place of business. They don't want to do that. So if you're brick and mortar and you're Main Street USA and you're all about physical contact, I feel very strongly that you're going to limit the age demographic of your customer base to folks that are, I don't know, maybe we'll make the age cutoff 40 years, but folks that are plus 40, I think the under 40 crowd, they just want to buy online. So, if you look at, how people initiate their product selection process, it's kind of like what I was talking about before. I just bought a new travel sling bag. I wanted something very compact that I could put my tablet in and a water bottle and, kind of snacks for the flight. I didn't want a big giant bag. So I initiated that process online and probably hyper obsessed over finding the perfect bag, which I did find the perfect bag and it did fit my tablet barely. But that's where people initiate their purchasing process. So taking them to the next step, which is actually selecting product and checking out, makes a lot of sense. And I think one of the misnomers about e-commerce that I feel very strongly about this is e-commerce is me setting up a store where people are going to go to my store and buy product. No, that's really not what's going to happen, because unless you have some really exciting products on your store and you have really great SEO and where people can actually find you and locate you, you're probably not going to see a lot of movement on your store. There's exceptions to that. Maybe you host some, buy local product line that's really popular. You did some killer graphics like what you see here on the screen, live, play, sleep, local. You did something like that. You promoted it through social media and people just dig the vibe of it and they go to your store and buy. But in general, the main store that you would have on your website is going to be kind of like a business card. It's going to be your showcase. And, folks will feature like some local products or maybe even a little gallery of swag for, the local high school team or something of that line. But it's not, e-commerce really isn't about just having a store on your website. It's about building stores for your customers. And when you look at what's driving product selection, it's all about social media. People see things on Instagram, they see things on Twitter and TikTok and all these social media platforms, and they want to know where they can purchase those. It's interesting. TikTok now has a TikTok e-commerce capability. There's a little button if you see a product on TikTok, and you can just click the little button and order it right straight through TikTok, which is pretty wild. So even TikTok's in the e-commerce business now. So if you don't give your customers a hassle-free online experience, they have, people vote with they vote with their dollars, and they have the opportunity to select different vendors. So I feel, maybe it's a little bit, I don't want to say controversial, but I'm going to push you guys a little bit. If you have just kind of shot down the whole idea of e-commerce, to me, maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like it's like a little bit fear-based, where you're like, I don't really know where to get started, and it's complicated, and it's, I don't like change. And so I'm just going to kind of stick my head in the sand and not expand into that. And, if you're in that mode, that's fine. And because it's human nature, right? But you don't have to do this alone. There's people out there that will help you and guide you through the process. And I'm one of those people. Why e-commerce, some of the main advantages of selling online versus in person, man, you can go to market so quickly on a new product. If something's happening, maybe there's some meme going around. There's quite a few memes going around our office Slack channel today, our messaging system. Maybe there's a meme going around that somebody wants to spin into a t-shirt graphic, or, a local team that you're doing merch for wins a championship or progresses into a playoff, and you want to pop some product out there with graphics that commemorate that activity. What better way to do it than e-commerce? You post a link to social media, to Instagram, saying, hey, listen, we got shirts for the state championship. You link back to an e-commerce site, people go and buy on their phone. This is amazing. And you can also reach a wider audience. Mark Heiss, one of my good customers, who's both an Inksoft and a GraphicsFlow client, he said something to me that really stuck in my head. It says, you're a virtual business now. We're a virtual business. We're not, he actually went to the step of closing his retail location on Main Street, USA in Yellow Springs, Ohio, because his online business and his wholesale business had grown to the point where he didn't need the distraction of people walking into his store. And they closed it. They just use it as a production facility now. And they actually bought a second location in downtown Yellow Springs. They bought the place next door, and so they had more room to run his direct-to-film printing system. That they're running their whole business pretty much off of direct-to-film. And also, when you're doing e-commerce, you're collecting valuable information. You're learning what consumer habits are. You're learning out what products are selling. You're learning, what size ranges are moving. You can see if you're running reports, you can see what products you're actually making money on, maybe some products that you're maybe not making money on. So having visibility through, electronic means of reporting on what's going on with your customers is kind of a big deal. And you can tailor that data that you're collecting towards, a specific marketing campaign. And there's some very clever things you can do with e-commerce. One of the things that one of my clients does, which I thought this was great, they get a bunch of direct-to-film transfers done, pocket logos of all the logos of all their schools in their area. They just gang them up onto one sheet. Direct-to-film is full color, so they do full color pocket logos, and they'll do 10 schools on a sheet, and then they'll run a special on their e-commerce site, and they'll promote it through Facebook and Instagram, and says, hey, a $10 pocket tees. And why pocket tees? Because he can gang up 10 transfers on one sheet and do a pocket tee. $10 pocket tees. And what's the cost of the transfer? Boy, on a gang sheet like that, if you have 10 up, you're looking at, 30 cents, maybe 40 cents for the transfer. And the t-shirt, if you get a, deal on, let's say, a dark colored shirt, because you probably want to do that on darks, you're looking at, maybe $3.50 for the shirt. So say you got $4 into it, and bam, every time somebody orders one of those, it's $6. And he was telling me, his average order size when he runs one of those promotions, it's over $5,000 in business. And he actually purchases Facebook ads to promote it. So I thought that was pretty forward thinking. So these are the kind of things that you can do with an e-commerce capability. And so it allows you to reach outside your local market. You're a virtual business now. You can sell to anybody in the US of A, or even Canada if you choose. You can reach underserved niche markets. So that's what's so cool about e-commerce. If you identify a market and say it's something that's very specialized. I'll give you an example. We have a client that he sells into the competitive dart throwing competition world. And all of a sudden you build up an e-commerce store that's this killer store for folks that are in that world, or maybe it's pickleball, or maybe it's cornhole, or one of these I call them leisure sports, but maybe they're more than leisure sports now. And people stumble across this website and they're like, hey, could you do something similar to me? That's a niche market that you can carve out. And niche markets are great because, it's not as hyper competitive as, trying to sell Booster Club shirts to the local football team. And also you're controlling the customer's buying experience and you're expediting the purchasing process. You're moving them right along. I look at some of the stats. I haven't gotten this year's stats, but last year we looked at the stats from the Inksoft, our sister company, on what percentage of the commerce that runs through Inksoft was done on a mobile device or phone. It was 80%. It was up from the previous year. So, people aren't necessarily doing this purchasing on their computer. They're doing it on their phone. And I look at my own Amazon purchasing habits. It's all done on my tablet. So let's talk about kind of the two types of e-commerce experiences. The first one is a web page with an online order form. And this is our other sister company, Printavo, has a very slick capability. If you put together a quote and you just want to publish it to an online order form where people can go and place the order, they can do that. And it's not a full like web store experience, but it's an order form. It was interesting. I was talking to a client of mine, and that's exactly what she was looking for. She goes, I just don't want to do paper order forms for my fundraising stuff anymore. I just want to be able to take my paper order form and translate it to an online order form. And I was like, hey, listen, that's exactly what Printavo offers. And so that's one type of an experience. And what you're doing is you're really just streamlining the process by eliminating the extra steps of having to collect order forms and honestly decipher handwriting. I've been told that I should have been a doctor based on the quality of my handwriting. I wish I had great handwriting, but the thing is, you have paper order forms, you have all the potential human error. Was that extra small or is that extra large? Having to go back to the customer and say, is that S or an L? Those kind of things probably wouldn't confuse an S or an L. And you're also, the biggest thing is if you're working with clients and you set up an online order for them, you can get them to pay up front. And that's something I feel so strongly about, is getting away from this concept of giving your clients payment terms. Amazon doesn't give you payment terms. The main consumer purchasing websites that people go with, they're not giving you payment terms. You just have to pay up front. You have to use your credit card. And this whole experience about having to provide credit terms, or where you're having to front the cost from SanMar or Alpha Broder or SNS, wherever you're buying your blanks from, you're fronting the cost. You're having to wait for the customer to pay you. They're dragging their heels. That's an incredible burden to your business. And I think it's really smart to try to, so to speak, wean yourself off of that, because, the stress to your business and also the potential to get, stuck with, bad debt and things of that nature. I think in today's day and age, I think it's absolutely reasonable to say, hey, we get paid up front, we get prepaid. I know there's exceptions to that. It's big corporations and, schools have a PO process, but by and large, your everyday consumer, they should be paying you up front, or at the very least, 50% deposit upon, you can set that up with any of the e-commerce platforms, specifically Printavo and Inksoft. You can set it up and say, hey, listen, it's 50% down, and then, we're going to collect the other 50% upon delivery, or maybe 15 days after delivery. So having that flexibility to collect the payment up front is pretty awesome. And then also automated, order statuses. People like to kind of know where I like to know where things are in the ordering process. I ordered online. I ordered shoes. I generally don't order shoes online, but I had a pair of shoes that I really liked, and they fit well, and they're New Balance, and I ordered the same shoes in a different color from the New Balance website. But it was really nice because I got an order confirmation, and then they sent me tracking. I know that my new shoes are going to arrive on Tuesday. I really like that part of e-commerce where they're kind of keeping you posted, and that visibility on what's going on with my order. We're all, I think, at least I speak for myself, a little impatient and want immediate gratification. So being able to get that automated update from your vendor, I think is really, really important. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the second type of e-commerce experience, which is really a dedicated online store. Dedicated online store can stand alone as its own entity with its own domain it can also function as the website for the Jones Family Reunion. Jones Family Reunion, this can be the website. This can have the registration information on it. It can have the, bio and pictures of, grandma and grandpa and all the things that you would need to construct for a standalone website. That can be their website. The e-commerce site can be the website. It just happens to have the ability to purchase swag on it. And that's the kind of experience that you're seeing in the marketplace, where it's not just, hey, let's just order products. It's actually incorporating in other elements like a countdown timer for a fundraiser, or testimonials, or, kind of good vibe commentary on some social event that's going on with the organization. So, and a dedicated online store is a complete buying experience, and you're able to tailor the content to the customer. And also, there's a couple different ways to do it. One is what we call an evergreen store, where it's open all the time. And these work well for people that are set up to do print on demand, where you can print small order quantities. Maybe you tally up the orders once a week and print once a week or every 2 weeks. Or a temporary store, which is what a lot of folks do, which is they just run a store for 3 weeks and they collect all the orders, and then they close it in 3 weeks. And then they collate everything into a big bulk order, produce the product, and ship it to the client. That's another way of doing it. And from my experience, I think the temporary stores typically produce better results because there's a sense of urgency. And it was interesting. One of my clients said, what I'll do is, and they do heat transfers. What I'll do is I'll run some extra transfers, and I'll close the store. And then all those people that kind of just, didn't get in under the deadline, I'll open up the store like in 2 weeks and say, by the way, we reopened the store, limited quantities. This is always get a nice little shot of orders. And I think that's a great business practice, and you're welcome to borrow that idea. Freezing out the competition by securing a client with a web store program. I will never forget this. I have a client who shall remain nameless. I've done business with these folks for many, many years. They're a big company now. They were little when we first started doing business with them. So they literally built their entire business around this concept of tying folks up with the web store, because once you have the web store implemented for the school or the group, it's just really hard. If you're producing products that are of quality and on timely delivery and make it really easy for people to buy, there's really no reason for them to go elsewhere. And there's another aspect to this, which I think is very important, which is the pricing aspect. If you're doing a web store and you're collecting the money, and what you're doing is paying a revenue share back to the organization, they're not beating you up over price. Think about that for a second. How many of you who had that conversation, well, I can get that same t-shirt for $3.50 from some, there's some, maybe it's Alibaba, or there's some, cheap tees website. And then all of a sudden you're like, how do I compete with that? I can't do that shirt for $3.50. Well, guess what? If you're selling the shirt for $15 and you're giving them 20 or 25% revenue share, and they don't have to collect any of the money, they can't come to you and say, I can get that shirt for $3.50, because you're just giving them a percentage. It just solves that whole problem. That's part of the reason it's so smart, and kind of a best practice. I learned this from Mark Heiss at Yale Springer, is he tells the client, says, hey, listen, if you want a bigger revenue share, we can do that. I just have to raise the retail price. So if you want 30%, we're going to charge $25 for the tees. If you're cool with 20%, we're going to charge $20 for the sheet tees. And if you want to sell them for 15, I'm going to give you 10%. And what a clever way of working. So basically the customer is participating in the pricing strategy by indicating their desire for how much money they want to make. What a cool way to do business. Again, you're collecting payment up front. Super easy to integrate a dedicated online store into social media and email marketing. It's just a landing page. It's where people go to get information. You're, again, providing those automated updates, and it gives you the ability to scale. You hear that word a lot, scale. Scaling is, obviously growing your business. But one of the things you can do by leveraging technology is you can scale your growth without having to do additional hiring. And that's one of the things that's really unique about e-commerce, is the ability to scale without hiring. You're just leveraging internet technology to process the orders and move everything through production, versus having to have people on the phones or clerks working inside of a store that you have to pay, wages to and benefits to, using internet technology and e-commerce to do the same thing. And, a big deal, maybe a little underrated, but I think it's a really big deal, is your stores, when you do a dedicated store, it's operating as your showcase to potential clients. So you can send a link to a client that you're prospecting to and say, hey, listen, this is, these are some of the stores that I do for other people. You're able to use that as a showcase. It gives you instant credibility. And there's another important aspect to the showcase idea, which is you can set up a store in advance of even doing business with this person. We call that a pitch store. So you create a pitch store where it says, hey, this is what we can do for you. Here's some graphics, here's some, products. We can obviously tweak this and make it work, so it's a little bit more personal, but this is what we're capable of doing. And boy, it's hard to say no to that. So choosing an e-commerce vendor. So let's get it kind of out in the open. There's so many choices and there's so many options. Seems like there's a new one that pops up every day. And there's some really good, big, giant companies out there in our industry. So there's folks like Shopify and BigCommerce and, Square and GoDaddy are some of the bigger ones that typically, the cost of entry, they have a wide variety of options where it's a low cost of entry. But bear in mind, these e-commerce platforms were set up for general e-commerce. They're not set up for, apparel decoration. And so that's part of the reason, that you see these kind of, these pricing structures that are very attractive is because, it's just general e-commerce. And you can be quite successful just with a general e-commerce store, provided you're willing to do kind of the extra work it's involved in setting up stores. There's, one of the challenges, people don't really think about it until they start e-commerce is there's some really specific nuanced things about apparel decoration and personalization. For instance, accommodating decoration methods, the way you charge for things. I need to charge extra for dark shirts because they have to print into underbase, or, if you have more complex pricing models where you have different sizes, all the way up to maybe 5XL, or, now you got to deal with multi-location prints and colorways where you have this set of color for the graphics on lights and another set of colors on darks, or even worse, you have one set of colors for white, one set of colors for navy, and one set of colors for red, right? So, all the complexities of the apparel decoration personalization industry, generally speaking, aren't cooked into, these non-industry specific platforms. And most of the general e-commerce platforms have a pay-per-store business model, meaning, every time you add a domain name, you're paying a different fee. So with that being said, you can be successful and you can certainly get started in e-commerce and kind of a rudimentary level with just going with a general e-commerce vendor. When you're choosing an e-commerce vendor, you also have this whole aspect of like industry specific vendors out there. And so, kind of the big ones in our industry, the big ones are going to be Inksoft, Printavo, our other sister company, Deco Network. Well, I think most people have heard of them. And then Order My Gear. Also, you can see, the higher cost of entry. Some of these companies also have an upfront fee. I can't speak to any of the specifics of upfront fees for any of the kind of industry specific platform, but you do see that. And also, one of the advantages of these industry specific vendors, they're specialized for apparel decoration and personalization. So they can handle complex pricing models, multi-location prints. These are the kind of things that an industry specific platform gives you. And I honestly think the most important aspect of it is being connected to supplier feeds. So when you have a supplier feed, is basically a live feed from people like Sanmar and SNS and Augusta and the promotional products vendors, where you have access to their product descriptions, their product photography, their real-time pricing. So you're not having to keep a price list, because if you go in and you load a product into, let's say, Inksoft, it'll tell you what the pricing is right this morning from Sanmar. So having access to those products is a huge advantage. And honestly, it's the biggest time saver when you're setting up a store. I'm not having to, here's a perfect example. I talked to a customer and he was using one of the big e-commerce platforms, can't remember which one, but he was telling me that he has to create product they're in the equestrian world and they carry a lot of SKUs, and he has to grab the product photography from every one of his products, but he has to create individual photos with virtual mock-ups for every color variation of every product. So if he was offering 6 or 8 colors for a t-shirt, he'd have to create 6 or 8 mock-ups and then upload those into his e-commerce platform. With something like Inksoft, you can just select a product and you can pick a graphic, and it will automatically populate that colorway onto one group of colors and populate the other colorway onto the other. It's creating the virtual mockups on the fly, so I don't have to go into like Corel or Illustrator or whatever I'm using and create individual mockups for each color variation. That connectivity to a supplier catalog is just such a big deal. And also, the industry specific platforms are scalable. You can clone stores and create a new store, having unique domains, like for instance, with like Inksoft, you have its own domain for that specific client store. It has its own unique domain. And you can, if you have a domain for that store, the customers say they purchase their own domain, you can redirect to that domain too. So that's pretty awesome. Being able to process artwork for decoration processes, including complex ones like screen printing, embroidery, direct-to-garment, direct-to-film, and heat transfers. The industry-specific platforms have accommodations for that. Speaking specifically of Inksoft, when you upload artwork to Inksoft, it processes the artwork. You can go in and change colors to the artwork. It'll create embroidery previews based on the DST file. There's just a lot of industry-specific stuff that's going on with the artwork. One of the things that comes up a lot all the time is, what's the company support policy, right? Like, what can I talk to a live human being Monday through Friday or even on the weekends, is knowledgeable about the platform that can really assist if they need to, remote in on my system, they can do that. Or am I dealing with a, offshore team? Are you going to have a dedicated account manager? You can have somebody that's going to be there dedicated to you to make sure that you're successful. What's the onboarding experience going to be like for you? Meaning, are they going to hold your hand and walk you through getting set up? What are the training resources are available? Does the company offer online education sessions? How long has the company been in business? So let me answer these questions from the perspective of Inksoft and Printavo to give you the answers. What is the company's support policy? You have to be a customer. Our team's 100% in-house. Will you have a dedicated account manager? Every customer gets 2 people with Inksoft. They get an account manager, and then they have a support person as well on top of that. And the support person, is more like a round robin, but they have a dedicated account manager. And that person is going to be responsible for making sure they're happy, they're happy. And they're also, from an onboarding perspective, they're going to be with the onboarding team first to make sure that they get their account launched, they're getting their stores set up. And then after that, their account manager is going to be responsible for them. Training resources. That's what I do for a living. I produce the training videos for all 3 of our brands. We literally have hundreds of hours of dedicated webcasts and videos. And that's actually what I'm working on today. And when we get done with this and doing 2 new videos, and I just produced another one this morning for Printavo. So we take the training aspect of the business very, very seriously. And I don't know of anybody that does more online education. These kind of questions, I believe, are really important to ask your vendor when you're choosing an e-commerce vendor. A couple things I want to talk about is, when you're working with, e-commerce, one of the things that you can do is you can just create a little proposal. So people think of like a proposal as like a proposal. Proposals an e-commerce capability. You're just basically creating a quote. You're sending the quote over to the customer. They are approving the quote and paying online. And we're going to walk you through one of those so you can see what one of those looks like. So, buyers are visual. They need to see the graphics. So we always want to set up the graphics on the product. Better graphics are going to sell more. So putting some energy into higher quality graphics is really important. Not being a commodity broker and just doing logos on stuff. You want to try to work in things that, inspire customers to purchase. Being careful about crafting your product mix, putting products together that are complementary, not overdoing it, not giving people too many options. There's basically the top 6 in our industry. You're going to have a cotton t-shirt. You're going to have a crew neck sweatshirt. You're going to have a hoodie, probably going to have a baseball cap, and then maybe a dry fit tee and a dry fit. Those 6 products are going to take up 60-70% of the market right there in different variations. So, not always having to overload the product mix all the time. And, you always got to make sure you follow up. So if you're doing an online proposal, you certainly want to make sure you follow up. and also conditioning your customer to pay up front. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to log into my Inksoft account. Yep, I'm just going to log in here. And so if I wanted to create a proposal, let's say I had a store that I've already set up for a customer. So I've set up this customer with the store already, and we're going to come back to the store and work on the store a little bit. But the reason I show you the store is because the proposal, the look and feel of the product and the proposal are going to come from the store. The logo is going to come from the store, the color scheme, everything comes from the store. So specifically in Inksoft, when I create a proposal, what's going to happen is it's going to draw all the customer information from that store. You can build a proposal out by itself without being linked to a store, but it's really cool if you do have a store. So I'm just going to cruise over here to proposals. And then what I'm going to do is create a new proposal. And if I have a contact in the system already that's linked to the store, it's automatically going to link. It knows that that person is linked to the store, but we're just going to create a new proposal. And I'm going to select a person, and I can put in, it's a CRM, so I could put in a new customer. But you can just go over here and type in Greg Martinez right here. So there's Greg, and I can name the proposal, and we'll just call this softball t-shirts. And I'm going to assign Greg to the Central Boosters store. That way it'll pull in the look and feel. I could put an expiration date on the proposal. We'll put the 28th on there. Enhanced date, we'll put in August 4th. We're going to have to let taxation is all going to be automated based on zip code. Put any notes in here if I want to add payment details, like force them to pay up front, like payment in full upon approval. I can put all of that in here. So when I create the proposal, the first thing I want to do is I want to add the product. And so when I go over here to product, I have used what's called Rapid Product Creator. I have selected the most common products that we use, day to day. And these are all the pre-built things that I've already built out for this particular store. So these are just kind of graphics for this store that I've built out. But we also have blank products as well. And so if I wanted to add a blank product to this store, and so now I've filtered out all of my pre-decorated product, and I'm just looking at Gildan blank. So I'm just going to choose this Gildan tee right here, and I'm going to choose two colors. So I'm going to choose ash, and it's pulling in all the product description. It's pulling in the product name. It's pulling in all the sizing. It's pulling in the pricing. It's pulling all of that in there. And so I'm going to go in and add navy to this as well. So I have two products, and we can upload some art here. So I'm just going to go and upload some artwork. And I can upload an embroidery file, in which case I can edit the thread colors if I want, or I can just go and upload a vector file here. And I think I did something the other day. Let's see here. Yeah, Cougars baseball, misspelled. So we'll just go ahead and upload that. So this is a PDF file. This is actually a GraphicsFlow file, and it's a PDF file, so it's vector. So if I upload a vector format like SVG or PDF, it's going to automatically process the vector file so that I can recolor it. It's treating it as vector art. I can recolor it. I can resize it. And this art is what it's using to populate the graphic onto the product. It's not like a merged image where you have the product and the graphic merged together. You have the product and the graphic gets placed on it by Inksoft, which is really cool because then you can do this. If I come over here, I can say colorways. And right now the colorway that we have set up is fine for ash right here. But now I can reassign these colors for, let's say the navy. So I probably just want to take anything that's navy and probably just make it white. And just make it white. Yeah, there you go. And so now I'm going to save that colorway, and I have two variations. So I have the variation that goes on the ash right here. And then, I have the variation that goes on the navy right there. See that? So two different variations. That's industry specific types features. Then I'll just say create mockup here. And here's for the proposal. That's where I'll put all the pricing data in. and we'll put all the pricing data. It knows to upcharge for XX and all that stuff. And we'll put all of that in there. And then what I'm going to do is put my decoration method. In this case, it's going to be screen print, or it could be digital. Colors for the screen print, it's actually a 4-color because white underbase, and there's no back design on this. So we've got all the printing data set up here. And based on the pricing matrix that I already set up, I put in my pricing logic, it'll pull the retail, or it'll pull the wholesale department price from, Sam or whoever I'm selecting it from, and it'll automatically calculate the price, and I can go in and override all these prices. So if I want to go over here and override the price, I have the ability to go and override all the price. If maybe I want to round up, it'll give me my printing costs based on the pricing matrix that I chose when I set up my pricing model, all that stuff. And so we'll just hit Save Proposal now. And basically, this is just creating an online order form. A proposal is kind of accomplishing two things. It's giving you the ability to, get the idea in front of the customer and say, hey, here's the proposed order. It's got that going on, but it's also giving them an option to pay. And so all I got to do now is just go over here, say, we'll go to customer view, and I would send it. I'd hit the little send button to set it up, but this is what the customer views when they click on it. So they can see their little proposal right here. They click on view proposal, and here's all the information. If they want to see a bigger view of the product, they can do that. And they see everything and they want to approve and pay. And guess what? There's your expiration day. Approve, total balance, next, credit card or ACH. If you want to offer ACH, they pay, they're done, you get paid. That's a form of e-commerce. So this is like an online order form, but it's interactive. And what a cool way to do business. Now, when you're setting up a store, it's a little bit different, because when you're setting up a dedicated store, we're going to go over here to Inksoft, and I'm just going to go over here to stores, and I'm going to select the store that this is linked to. And it's a very similar concept. When you set up a store, every e-commerce platform is different, but I can tell you this right now. I've set up stores for people, or helped set up stores for people on just about every major e-commerce platform. Soup to nuts, Shopify, Square, GoDaddy, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, all of these. And they all have their nuances, and some of them are easier than others, and some of them are harder than others. I have not found a platform that's as intuitive and easy to set up a store with as Inksoft. It is just super easy to set up a store, because the first thing you do when you set up a store, you go through a little wizard process where it says, hey, what's the logo you want to use? You want to have the Inksoft designer incorporated into it. Is this going to be a store that's going to run for a period of time and time out, or is it going to be a permanent store? Do you want to offer ACH payments? Do you want to approve every order that comes through here before it goes to production? All of those things are answered in the form of questions when you set up the store. And once the store is set up, you get basically a shell. It'll automatically populate the logo that you uploaded. You pick the color scheme when you set up the store. So it's basically set up, and if I want to change the color scheme here, I'm just going to go over here, and it's pretty bright when you do the red. I just changed the global color. I like the red. I just changed the global color scheme for this store. And where you got this banner and where you got this countdown here is these are here. We'll delete this and I'll add it back on. Remove the component, and I'll show you how we add a component. You just go plus. You have all these components like banners, or here's a fundraising banner you set in a dollar amount, and it'll keep track of how close we are to that dollar amount. We're going to add just a countdown timer here. See, which one do we want to add? We'll add layout 2. And here it is right here. If I want to move it up, I can either drag it up or just go over here. It's just a quick little drag and drop. And we'll drop her right in there, hit done. So now we've repositioned it. If I want to edit the colors on this, just hit edit. And here's all the colors. If I want to make that red, which I don't, actually it don't look bad red, but I want to keep it blue. That's how easy it is to do a component. And we'll add a product component here, so you can see how that looks. So Same idea. I'm just going to hit plus, and we'll just do a featured product. You have all these different layouts, and we'll just do a featured product, and the featured product will just be one up. And then again, I'm going to move that to the top. So we'll just move that up to the top, right below the banner. There's that. And let's add a product. You remember that where I was creating the product in the proposal? It's the same area. It's what's called Rapid Product Grader. And so all I have to do is go into Manage Products, and I'll add the product from the proposal we just did. That's probably the easiest thing to do. There it is. All right, we'll just add it, hit plus. There we go, hit done, hit save and publish. Oh, there it is. And once I've got that done, I can hit save and publish, and that product has been added. And then if we want to see what the store looks like, I'm still in editing mode. So if we want to see what the store looks like, all we need to do is go back here and go to the storefront. So one last aspect of this whole e-commerce thing is what we call the customer portal. So everything we've done here so far is, pretty standard e-commerce stuff. You created the proposal, I created a store, added a product to a store, but there's another aspect to this, which is one of my favorite aspects specifically to the Inksoft platform. I'm going to log out here as an admin, and I'm going to log in like I'm an end user. And what I mean by that is when you have an Inksoft store, you can create an account for your customer so they can log into their account. Again, also, if they're checking out, they can create an account store and somebody's checking out, they have the option of creating an account. So if they log into their account, they can go over here to my account and they have visibility on everything that's going on. So for instance, that approval that we just did, it's just sitting here waiting to be approved. That's what it is. It's just waiting here. It's not, here's all the details of the approval. They can go in there, they can approve it right from here. There's other quotes that are paid. This one has already been paid. Here's their orders and their past orders. If they want to go in and initiate a reorder, they can just go over here and say, view the order details. And they can just click on reorder right here and put in any special instructions about the reorder. It's going to ping the person of record for their account. And it's going to say, hey, listen, this customer would like to reorder this proposal or this order. You'll have a link to that order. You can clone the order. And once you clone the order, then you can go in and change the quantities based on what the instructions are right here. So you just made it super duper easy for your clients to reorder from you. The other thing, super cool that you can do is right here is here's all the artwork that they're using. So if there's any kind of confusion on artwork, here's all their artwork. So here's the artwork they uploaded. So these are designs they uploaded to get quotes on, or they were creating. And here's designs that were created in the Inksoft Designer. They will absolutely go online and process a reorder. If they just want to do like a name drop or something like that. If you want to come in here and, just say design now. And let's see here, upload an image, something that maybe they already created on their end, like this. Look familiar? So they have the ability to even interface with their own art. Where this gets really, really pretty slick is like if you have a customer, like say it's a university and they have different departments and their marketing team built out these graphics and they just want to get a quick quote, they can just go into the designer. It'll automatically generate the quote for them based on the pricing matrix you put together. They can upload their art, see what it looks like, and get a quote. They don't have to check all the way out if they don't want to. They can just go to the point of getting a quote and not check all the way out. You're notified, you have visibility on it. You can take a look at it and so maybe you want to give them a better deal. You have the latitude to do that. And so one of my very, very favorite things to do with Inksoft is, set up these files as name drops, because you can just go in if you wanted to. Here, we'll delete this. You go in here and you added like a design. You can set this up as a name drop, and they can change any aspect of this that they want. So if I went over here and went into these soccer designs, we set up that design. What's going to happen is there's live text in this design. So any of this can be modified by the end user. So they save this design, they save this piece of artwork. They can go back and open up the artwork, and guess what they can change this to? Football. They'd come in here if they want to change the color scheme. E-commerce is something that everyone should have an e-commerce capability. You know, you want to make sure when you're doing the web store that the layout is easy to navigate, products make sense together, the branding is consistent, fonts, the logos, make sure the store is mobile friendly. That's super important. Most orders are getting placed on a phone or a tablet, you know, aware of your production processes and, you know, how that impacts minimum order quantities. You know, you have to choose a fulfillment model. Is this going to be a bulk ordering store where they just, you know, let it run for 3 weeks and shut it down, produce everything? Or is it going to be a print on demand store where we're printing as we go? Considering outsourcing production to maybe offer a broader product mix. For instance, banners. You don't have to print them yourself. You can offer a banner. You don't have to even print it yourself. You know, the biggest part of promoting a store is through social media. And that's where you really have to get the customer behind you to promote the store through their Instagram and their Facebook and, you know, email campaigns, you know, consistently, you know, sending out messaging and getting people to the store. Video is always better than photos. You know, make your posts personal. Use a little bit of charm. Make sure you're tagging customers when you're doing this. Hashtags. Promoting the store through social media is the way that the store produces volume. If you don't promote the store through emailing campaigns and social media, you're just not going to get good results. So thank you for attending our webcast today, and we hope to see you on the next one.